Fear is something we've all felt, whether it's the fear of failure, loss, the fear of the unknown, or something specific looming ahead. We carry it in our chest, in our thoughts, in our body. But have you ever stopped to wonder, what does the Quran say about fear? Not just to command us not to feel it, but to actually recognize it, validate it, and guide us through it. In this episode, we're diving into the emotion of khawf, fear, as it appears in the Quran. What we'll come to find is that fear is not treated as something shameful. In fact, Allah speaks of it over and over again. It's not a flaw in your faith to feel afraid. Fear is part of being human, and that's exactly why it's so clearly addressed in Revelation. Let's start with one of the most intimate moments in the Prophet's life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he and Sayyidina Abu Bakr were in the cave, hiding during the hijrah, it was a moment filled with danger and uncertainty. In that moment, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam turned to his companion and said, "La tahzan, inna Allah ma'ana." Do not grieve. Indeed, Allah is with us. Now, the verse doesn't use the word khawf, but it shows us what fear can feel like. It's the word huzn, grief, that's used, but it overlaps deeply with fear. They were being hunted. The stakes were life and death. And yet the reassurance was immediate. Allah is with us. Fear here is acknowledged by Allah Azza wa Jal. What's incredible is that the Quran doesn't just stop at naming the fear, it shows us what to do with it. In Surah Ali Imran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلَا تَخَافُوهُمْ وَخَافُونِ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. It's a shift. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala isn't saying, don't feel fear. He's guiding us to where to direct our fear, away from what overwhelms us and towards that which grounds us. The fear of people can be paralyzing, but the awe of Allah Azza wa Jal is different. It stabilizes and centers you. And then there's the verse, Surah Al-Baqarah, that speaks directly to the trials of life. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. We will surely test you with something of fear, hunger, loss of wealth, lives, and crops, but give good tidings to the patient. Notice how fear is listed first. Allah names it. Khawf is part of the test, not a punishment. It's a test. It's something we are meant to pass through with patience, and in return, He promises us glad tidings. Perhaps one of the most emotional expressions of fear in the Quran is the story of the mother of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. Can you imagine the terror of placing your newborn child in a basket and casting him into the river? In Surah Al-Qasas, verse 7, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّ مُوسَىٰ أَنِ ارْضِعِيهِ فَإِذَا خِفْتِ عَلَيْهِ فَأْلْقِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ وَلَا تَخَافِي وَلَا تَحْزَنِي. And we inspire to the mother of Musa, suckle him. But when you fear for him, cast him into the river, and do not fear and do not grieve. Allah names her fear, when you fear for him, but immediately follows it with calm. Do not fear and do not grieve. Her fear was real, and Allah met it with direction and comfort. So what does that mean for you and me? What can we actually do when fear shows up in our own lives? The first response is tawakkul, true trust in Allah, not just as a concept, but as a lived reality. When the path ahead feels unclear or overwhelming, remind yourself, Allah sees what you don't. The second response should be dhikr, remembrance. In Surah Al-Ra'd, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. Truly in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. Dhikr is a way to regulate your emotions. A heart that remembers Allah becomes more still, more anchored, even when navigating uncertainty. In a world that constantly tells you to distract yourself from what you feel, the Quran teaches you to sit with it, and to bring it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And lastly, the Quran gives us language. Verses of reassurance can become like a rope to hold on to when everything else feels out of control. Fear doesn't have to be a barrier between you and Allah. In fact, it can be a bridge to tawakkul, a bridge to sincerity, a bridge to spiritual elevation. You're not less faithful because you're afraid. You're human. And Allah speaks directly to that part of you. And to help us understand the role of fear in our faith journey, Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah offers a beautiful metaphor. He says the heart in its journey to Allah is like a bird. Love is its head, and hope and fear are its two wings. If the wings are imbalanced, the bird cannot fly. If you only have love without fear, or only fear without hope, the journey becomes lopsided. But when all three are present and balanced, the soul is balanced. So what do we do with the fear? We don't ignore it. We don't drown it in either. We give it direction. And that's why the Quran doesn't just name fear, it offers practices to manage it. Here are some practical tools to help you manage fear. First, redirect your fear from creation to the Creator. Fear of the unknown or fear of people loses its grip when it's replaced with the awe and trust in Allah. Make this your go-to dhikr. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. Allah is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of our affairs. Second, recite and reflect on the names of Allah. When fear grips your heart, call out to Al-Hafidh, the protector, and Nasir, the helper. Take 10 to 20 minutes out to sit calmly with this dhikr and repeat to yourself for at least 100 times. Because remember, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. Truly in the remembrance of Allah, do hearts find rest. Lastly, pause and anchor your dua and breath. Fear shortens your breath, narrows your focus, and speeds up your thoughts. Interrupt that pattern. Slow your breath. And say this powerful dua that the Prophet ﷺ would say during hardship. Allahumma rahmataka arju, fala takilni ila nafsi tarafata ayn, wa aslih li sha'ni kullah. O Allah, it is your mercy that I hope for, so do not leave me to myself for the blink of an eye, and rectify for me all of my affairs. Repeat it during the day, whisper it before bed, and let it become part of your emotional toolkit until it becomes the go-to for your tongue and heart. Fear will visit all of us. What matters is what we make of it. The Quran doesn't erase fear, but instead it reframes it. And it is that reframing and redirection that we find a way forward. Watch the full series on Maristan's YouTube channel. If this message resonates with you, consider sharing it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you've benefited, please support the creation of more spiritually and emotionally enriching content through your donations at maristan.org.